Electrocast.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Michael Mojo is the mindset and mental performance coach for some of Australia's top rich listers, industry leaders, athletes and business teams. Michael has an undeniable talent for bridging the gap between advanced sciences, human behaviour, personal development and the mental performance fields. Producing powerful tools and teachings that people can easily understand and implement to help them succeed at greater levels. He's been featured alongside the likes of Dr Joe Dispenza, Dr John Demartini, Dr Dave Logan, Grant Cardone, Gary Vaynerchuk and Barbara Corcoran from the Shark Tank. Michael is here to share what he's learned on his journey to becoming the best individual he can be in every area. It's his mission to help people raise their standards, get the clarity they need to succeed, and create the lifestyle they've always dreamed of. This conversation with Michael doesn't pull any punches. It gets straight to the point and highlights how much we have in common and how our growth and philosophies align. Welcome, Michael, to the Ethical Evolution.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm excited to be with another Aussie for once on this show. It doesn't happen very often. But Michael, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Mojo Human Performance Institute. We just help people perform better, really. A lot of my clients, though, either they're wanting to improve their life or they're wanting to improve their business. The way we work is people normally want to improve their business and they know that the majority of business problems are all people problems. So if they have a sales problem, that's a people problem. If they've got a marketing problem, it's normally either how they're delivering a message to people or it could be within their own team. Then you have, leadership problems, management problems. These are all people problems. Fortunately, most business owners try and fix everything with a better strategy instead of just trying to become better leaders or better communicators or better managers or build better teams. So we really just focus on the human element of that.
I love that. And, anyone who knows me, my leadership style is people first and continuous improvement. So, I think what you're saying there is critical because without the people, we don't have the results, do we?
Not really. Not yet. I mean, eventually AI might be able to think for itself in a way, but even now, when you start to consider artificial intelligence, it's still people that are programming it in a way to operate in a certain way. So if those people aren't effective, then the AI is not going to be effective either.
That's exactly right. It comes back to us needing to be the change, isn't it? And, Michael, for those who do know that you've got a pretty rad car that you get around in,
Yeah.
and you've rose to a bit of stardom in what you do. Can you give us a bit of your background and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, no one's ever called my car rad before, but I'll take it. I like it.
It's probably a bit more than rad, to be honest. But anyway.
So when the way that all this started was really, it was from a young age when I look back. My mum was 17 when she had me in a Catholic family, and my dad was 19, and his family were pretty much bogan atheist Aussies. So I guess that would have been quite difficult for them, but they were very independent. So, they started their life from a young age. Now, when I sort of started coming onto the scene where I can remember, almost every week we were at parties with adults. So my parents still they're very social. And maybe that's where I get my social, wanting to be social sort of values from, I'm not sure. But every weekend we were away, and we were always away with other young adults that were probably in their early 20s at the time, to late 20s by the time I was, starting to enter my teens. And so on the weekends, my parents would drink heavily and party, and they would have a lot of fun. Having kids didn't really stop them from having fun. Now, being around those other people was great. Like, I didn't know any different, but being at parties every weekend with intoxicated adults was an eye opener because you got to see how different people operated and how they would handle alcohol. And we were always safe. So everyone always looked after us. Like, it was essentially, I had big brothers and big sisters everywhere because of mum and dad's friends. So we were always looked after and taken care of. But just sitting back and just watching how these adults interacted was really interesting. Then at school, I would go back to school and I didn't fit in because all the other kids played sport on weekends and they had their school stuff, which I wasn't part of. So I was trying to figure out from a young age how to fit into those social groups because I was always excluded. But then watching adults drink and party and have fun on weekends, I got an insight into young adults. And I would spend a lot of time just thinking because I didn't really fit into mum and dad's friendship circle, but I didn't fit into the school friendship circle. So I would just sit back and observe and watch what happened and question things. And I was always really inquisitive. As a young kid, I wanted to watch documentaries a lot. Just trying to figure out how the world works, how the universe works and so on. And I still am like that. So eventually I used to get picked on quite a lot. I had bright red hair, freckles, and I was chubby. In grade 5 swimming class, I was the only kid who wore a t-shirt in the swimming carnival just because I didn't like the way my body looked. At the age of 13, I started going to the gym. I started exercising, made me feel better about myself. At 15, I get expelled from school for fighting. I had a kid who picked on me all the time and I eventually bashed him and I was expelled from school. But then what happened was I fell into this, what I now know is sort of like a downhill spiral of depression where I was going to end my own life. And it was just because I didn't fit in at home. I didn't fit in at school. I was always in trouble at home. I was always in trouble at school. And I just thought I don't want to be here anymore. But it was probably one of the best moments of my life because sitting there with tears running down my face, just thinking, that's it, I'm done here. I had to view everything that was going on in my life. And it was then I realized that if I kept allowing other people to dictate the way that I operated and the way that I felt and myself being a people pleaser, then this was going to be the best that life was ever going to get. And there was part of me that didn't want to end my life because I had one close friend who had been through a lot. And I thought if I end my life, he's not going to have anybody else. And so he was the reason why I didn't end my life at 15. So that moment was a huge wake-up call. I ended up deciding to go back to school, started a diesel mechanic apprenticeship when I finished grade 12. And then I started working in the heavy earth-moving industry, and I loved it. But at the same time, I hated it because I love the learning part. I hated getting dirty every day, and I loved figuring out how things worked. But what I noticed was the culture there was so bad. People would rock up to work on Monday, and you'd ask them, how's the weekend? Oh, the wife sucks. Kids are horrible. We don't make enough money to put up with this crap here. And so they just had this really negative vibe. Now, I was brought up thinking, like most lower and lower middle class people, that the goal of life is to get a good education so that then you can go to university, so that then you can get a good job, so that then you can get the house with a white picket fence, get married and have kids and do all the usual stuff, right? But what I realized was that I was living this absolute delusion by thinking that way because I saw all these people who were working in the mining industry who were making, even back 20 years ago now, they're making $120,000, $150,000 a year and they've got 3 houses. They've got, their kids have motorbikes, they have cars, but they were still broke and they would still complain about never having enough money. Then they would complain about their relationships and they would complain about almost everything that happened in their life. And it started to make me realize that if I stayed in that environment, I would end up back where I was when I was 15. So I started looking at other alternatives for a career. But I also was afraid because my mum having come from a family where they didn't grow up with a lot of money, I think, you know, her having me at 17 years of age, she wanted to provide for us. But dad always worked 2 jobs. She was a stay-at-home mum until maybe I was 6 or 7, and then she ended up going back to work. But money was always an argument around the house. It was always a conversation. I would want Nike basketball shoes to play basketball in, and she would tell me we couldn't afford them. So at that age, I thought, you know, what do I do? And I was flicking through the newspaper one day and this ad came up and it said, become a personal trainer. And we're talking 20 years ago, personal trainers were like, it wasn't a career. It was just like, there were bodybuilders, there were the women in Lycra jumping up and down the stage and all the guys in Lycra after like the 80s and the 90s. And it wasn't really a thing, but I just knew that the gym was the only place that made me feel good from such a young age to, you know, late 19, 20, sort of that era. That really made me feel good about myself. So I thought, you know, this is something that I think I want to do. But it brought up all these feelings of insecurity because I was also put in special classes as a child, told that I had dyslexia, told that I probably had learning difficulties and that I probably had what's now known as ADHD, was ADD back then. So the thought of going back to school scared the living crap out of me. I thought, you know, I don't want to be the dumb kid again. But I knew I had to do something and I knew I had to learn something that maybe I might enjoy. When I went back there and started studying, and I did this after hours, so I would work a 10-hour day and then go to night school. When I got in there and I started learning, they would give us our book and I would read it in a whole weekend. I'd just sit there reading. Now, I'd never really read anything at school. I would sort of skip chapters and try and figure it out and just wing my way through school. But when I found something I loved, I was dedicated and I was a straight A student. But when I was a diesel mechanic, I ended up getting a phone call one day to go to the hospital because my best friend, the reason why I didn't kill myself at 15, he was in a car accident. When I got there, he'd informed me that his 3-year-old niece was killed in that car accident, and he was having surgery on his arm because the car had rolled and ripped all of his skin off and everything like that. And so I ended up at this funeral at around about 20 years of age with this 3-year-old, this little white coffin going into the ground. And it was probably one of the most interesting moments of my life where, you know, I'm sitting there distraught because my best friend, his niece, was killed. And me trying to figure out how that happens. How does life just get taken away in an instant for someone who never even lived? Now, up until that date and time, I'd never really enjoyed life. I was just doing stuff. That day was the first day of my actual life, because when I was there watching this little white coffin going into the ground, these questions popped into my head. How am I going to be remembered when I'm not here? Why do I exist? What's the purpose of my life? I'd never thought about that prior to that moment. I was just living on a roller coaster of everyone else's wishes and doing what I thought I should do in life because it's what I was told to do. And I was trying to be something that was sort of trying to please other people like my parents and so on. So it was probably one of the worst days of my life, but probably one of the best days and most freeing days of my life as well at the same moment, which sounds sort of weird, but it was my wake-up call. So I went back and I'm doing my diesel mechanic apprenticeship. And about a year later, I get called into my boss's office and he said, Michael, we're going to sign you off your apprenticeship. And I walked out with this certificate or this piece of paper that was signed and I put it on my toolbox and I sat there and I felt sick, like I was going to throw up, because I knew that if I stayed there, that this was going to be as good as life would ever get. And it sucked. And I didn't want to be there. So after thinking about this for a few hours, I went into the boss's office and I said, look, I'm leaving. And he said, what do you mean you're leaving? And I said, I don't want to be here anymore. Now, he was the head of a major trucking company. He was a sort of a trucking tycoon. And do you mind if I swear on the podcast, by the way?
Go for it.
He looked at me. Now, this guy's like super wealthy, you know, worth probably hundreds of millions of dollars, this little Italian guy. And he looks at me and he says, Michael, don't end up like the rest of these fuckers. Go do what you love. And so I put the toolbox in my car, drove to mum and dad's house, and I'm packing my toolbox. And my mum comes out and she says, what are you doing? And I said, I've quit. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, not this. And I knew that I was going to go to the local gym and just ask to get a job. And so she breaks down in tears. You know, if you just stick at it for 10 years and you work in the mining industry, you'll be set for life. You'll have the cars. You'll be financially stable. you'll be able to have a family, you'll be able to get married, you'll be able to have kids. But she didn't realize that she was projecting her values and her wishes onto me, not trying to understand what I really want to do and my love in life. Now, fast forward, I walked into the gym and I said, look, I'll do anything. I'll clean toilets, I'll clean bathrooms. And they said, Michael, just start on the front desk. There's a job there. You got to scan barcodes when people come in back in the day, not now where you've got your own cards.
Yep.
I had to scan barcodes, but within a couple of months, I knew everybody at the gym and I loved being there. I got to train twice a day. I would go and hang out with the boss and who was a PT, and I would go around with him and learn from him. And within a couple of months, the boss came to me and said, Michael, I know you're not fully qualified, but everyone here knows you. All the boys upstairs know that you know a lot about training. Like, you love this stuff. And people are asking if you'll train them because they know that you're studying to be a personal trainer. If you don't tell anyone you're not qualified, why don't you just start? And that was my day. I was like, I'm in. And then I realized the thing that I really loved was just helping people be better in life. And so from there, fast forward, I ended up setting up a franchise system at that gym, going out and teaching people. And that's where I realized my love for teaching and just that I could influence people one to many. Then I got headhunted by a medical center and I was working in there for a couple of years doing physical rehabilitation. And that's where I started realizing that everybody knows what to do. They just don't do it because of what sits in between their ears. I would see the same people come in week after week after week with health problems, sickness. And I'm thinking, they know what to do. They're not doing it. Mm. And so then that's when I started studying mindset, human performance, and so on. And I got to a point where I just had that realization that it's time to move on. And then I started Mojo Human Performance, and we started running events and seminars in the health and mindset space, and progressed 13 years later, and I am where I am now. And I've been able to work with some of the country's top athletes, world champions, rich listers, and then we've run events for tens of thousands of people who just want to be better and perform better.
Incredible. There's a lot to unpack there, Michael.
Sorry, I just took over your podcast.
No. I love it. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story, for one. And also, I know there were possibly some sensitive topics in there that you shared. So thank you for sharing that. And also, sorry for your loss and your struggle to a degree, but look at where it's brought you today. I guess, underneath all of that, you would have had a vision for something greater than a diesel mechanic. Am I right?
Well, I don't know, because I reflect on this quite a lot, because I get asked by a lot of people in the community or people who are on social media who follow me. They ask me a lot of these questions because they're starting their journey. Mm. And I roll back to a time, and I tell this story quite a lot. And I said, my journey of personal development and personal growth started in two different moments. The first one, where I got home from work one day and I was just stressed out and I was frustrated because I was an apprentice. I had this expensive car. It wasn't expensive, but it was expensive to me. But I always thought that having a nice car meant that people would appreciate you more. And so I went out as an apprentice and I bought the most expensive car that I could possibly afford at the time, and put big wheels on it and lower it and make it look cool, and a big sound system so that I could impress all my friends. And I would get home from work and I would be so stressed out about money. Mm. But then I started realizing that I needed to make more money. So I started studying how to make more money. And this was back like in the Internet Explorer days, not even like you couldn't Google stuff. There was no Google, it was Internet Explorer. So I would connect up the dial-up internet and I would type in how to make money. And these books came up. So the first book that I ever bought was a book that I still have just behind me over there. And it's a book called Buffettology by Mary Buffett, about the investing principles of Warren Buffett. So I bought that, and I also bought another book called What I Didn't Learn at School and Wish I Had by a guy called Jamie McIntyre. And so I started reading these books because all I wanted to do was to make money. Now, I didn't even realize that personal development was a thing. I didn't realize that your mindset was important. This was back when I was an apprentice mechanic. So I didn't even care about growing mentally. That thought had never even crossed my mind. All I wanted to do was make more money, because more money meant more cool stuff, and more cool stuff meant that people would validate me more. That's where I started.
That's not true, is it, Michael?
Well, it's definitely not. But the other thing that happened was I got home from work as a around second and third year apprentice. I was living with my girlfriend at the time. and I thought the house had been robbed. And I walked into the house, and eventually I realized that my girlfriend at the time had broken up with me and taken all of my stuff. And I just had to make a decision because I couldn't afford rent to just pay it by myself. So I had to move back in at home with my mum and dad. I didn't really get along with my mum in my young years because she's very much like me. She's very driven, very determined, very much has boundaries. And if you cross those boundaries, she doesn't put up with it, which is how I sort of live. I'm a bit more adaptable than maybe that, but, I sort of don't let myself get pushed around or anything like that. So I'm living at home with mum. I'm going out drinking all the time. Years later, I got diagnosed with chronic fatigue. But I would wake up in the middle of the night with these night sweats and just feeling horrible. So I'd flick on the TV and there'd be these promotional, those adverts that promote products. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this person talking about how they've improved their life and how it can get better and all that. And I just remember feeling so crap about myself. I thought, you know what, something's got to change. Now the product was $229. And it was an audio CD set. And I looked in my bank account. I got on there and it was the start of like internet banking. So I get on there and I look up and I had $230 in my bank account. And it's $229. And I had the same thing that most people have where I sat there and I was like, do I buy this thing that could potentially improve my life? Or do I keep the $230 and put fuel in my car to get to work tomorrow? And I was like, I really need the fuel to get to work because if not, I got to borrow money from somewhere. But if I don't do this, my life sucks. And I just remember feeling torn. But I guess I'm a bit impulsive because I probably do I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but having studied human behavior, I definitely have it. So being a little bit impulsive, I was just like, you know what, something's got to change. Let's go. I had to walk out to the kitchen at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, grab the little handheld phone, walk back to my bedroom and call up this international number so that I could order this CD box set. A couple of weeks later, it arrives and I downloaded it onto my original 256 megabyte Apple, remember the original Apple, which were like the USB sticks?
Yep.
I could put half a CD on it. So the first thing that I downloaded, I remember walking around the back streets of my mum and dad's house. And the first thing that they said was, find something you're grateful for. Now, when I go back to that moment, it took me about 3 weeks. I would listen to it every morning. I had nothing to be, not a thing to be grateful for, not a thing. And I remember the exact spot that I was where I realized that I had something to be grateful for. And it was because when I was walking, I looked down and I had legs. And I thought there's other people out there who don't have legs and I'm walking. That was where my personal development journey started. So when people say you're lucky because, or maybe, personal development's almost been important, it wasn't. I started from that same position that a lot of people do. They still have that, do I spend money on myself and get better? Or do I just do I spend the money on paying my bills? And I have that every week with people. They go, I know I need to change. I know I need to do something. I want to do one of your programs, but that decision is always the same in life because if you want to go to another level, that decision is always there. I have that decision in my business now where I go, okay, I want to go to the next level, but we only financially can keep doing what we're doing. And so eventually you have to jump that chasm and make a decision to go to that next level. But at the same time, one of my quotes is, you can't have a fuck yeah moment without an oh fuck moment. And so that's that moment where you make those decisions that you're not ready to make yet, but if you don't make them, nothing changes. And if every one of us that wants to grow and go to that next level, you always have that inner tension of like, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because it's sort of comfortable and safe, but it's not where I want to be. But I know I need to jump to the next level, but I don't have the resources yet to make that decision. You can sit there your whole life, and a lot of people do. But life becomes very mundane. And it also sucks because everything in nature grows or dies. So life is going to keep pushing you and hammering you through mental health problems, through a health crisis, through relationship breakups or relationship destructions, because it's forcing you to grow if you do not grow yourself. And Albert Einstein had one of my favorite quotes, and it's adversity shows a man to himself. And so either we create our adversity by just growing, or our adversity is created for us and we're forced to grow. So we can decide we're going to have adversity. We're going to have to make those tough decisions either way. It's just, are you doing it because you're driven by the things that you want and you're dictating the growth and the discomfort, or life's creating the discomfort for you? How do you want to grow? So I've just learned over the years that it's better to just make those decisions and just grow even when you're not ready.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot that you and I have in common, Michael, just listening to your story. When I think I was 19, the book for me was Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. And I turned my life around from night to day, like within months. I was trying to get a job, my first real job. I was trying to get a car. I was trying to move out of my parents' house, all of these things. Within 6 months, I had manifested everything I wanted. And my car probably wasn't as rad as yours. It was a Barina, but but I made it happen. And from there, just having that in my back pocket really helped me, because then when I got into a job, I realized where I really wanted to be. Like I was qualified to be a travel agent. That wasn't my first job. I eventually got that job because I worked for free for an amount of time and showed them who I could really be before they would give me a job. I had all the qualifications. They just wouldn't give me the job. I'm like, look, I will work for free for 2 weeks. If I can't show you what I can do within that time, I'll walk away. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, I had a job. And that's happened throughout my career, where I've gone, I now have a career in digital, which has spanned over 20 years in very big, iconic organizations. And one of my first roles that I got, I didn't have the qualifications, but I could do the work. So I said to this guy, I said, look, I'll make you a deal. I'll build you a website within a day. If I can do that, I get the job. Sure enough, I did it and I got it.
That's awesome.
So it's really just, sometimes you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to really be vulnerable, put yourself out there and take a chance, take a risk, because that is where you grow, and that is where that stretch happens, as you're saying. Like, you can either keep doing the same thing, or you can really reach for what you really want. And, the universe has got your back. It's not going to rip it away from you. It's going to support you if you keep working towards it. You just got to go for it and make it very clear what you want.
I agree with that.
So maybe we should start a duo coaching thing. I don't know,
Believe me, I get these stories every week from people who just, I think the thing is like, you don't know that you can swim until you start to swim.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it's not as bad as what you think. And life is always like that. Like the first time I walked into a gym, I was shit scared. There's all these people that are bigger than me, and there's these big muscle-bound people, but when I got in there, I was like, these people are really cool. Now, the gym culture's changed. Back many years ago, it was a super supportive community, because it was a outside of the ordinary community. I think these days there's a lot of influencer, almost like selfishness that happens in a lot of gym environments. But back when I started, it was like if you were the young, skinny kid in there, everyone wanted to help you. If you're a woman in the gym, it was mind-blowing, because there weren't women very rarely went in with the big grunting dudes in the gym. So it was just such a supportive environment, which is why I loved it so much. But I think everything in life is scary whenever you're moving to the next level. But after a while, you realize that it was never as bad as what you thought. It's like the fear in your own head makes it worse than it really is. But after you do it enough, these days, growth for me is just, the fear pops up and I'm like, well, okay, we know that we're going to the next level. Let's go. And then that's it. That's the only stronghold that the fear has.
And I know you were talking about, the struggle with money growing up, and, the conditioning in us as we grow up can stick with us for a while, can't it? Like, I know I went through some entrepreneurial coaching a few years back, and we were talking about, money mindset and all this kind of stuff. And what came up for me was that I had this scarcity belief that came from my parents, because, we didn't have much growing up, and we were always told to conserve what you have and to, plan for the future and all these kind of things. And so I found myself always thinking I never had enough. when I did. And the moment I could realize that I had everything I needed, but I could have more if I needed it, that's where the truth really came to light for me. And I realized this isn't my belief. This is someone else's, just like what was happening for you, is our parents can put these beliefs on us that become ours, or even, other generations. And we're like, where the hell did this come from? And it sticks with us into adult life, where we're then making financial decisions where we go, shit, that's not me. Like, what am I doing? Do you find that with the people you coach, that they're hanging on to stuff that's not theirs?
Definitely. I think that there are common patterns. Now, I tend to work with people that are very growth driven. Like my community is called the driven mofos, because the patterns of behavior of people that are driven are normally different than people who almost validate through their problems and through their issues and their challenges. And there are definitely plenty of coaches and psychologists and therapists and things like that to help people who need to have someone that they can complain to all the time or that they can talk through all their problems. I'm not like that. I think that with every problem, there's a solution and there's a logical way of moving through it. And if we want to get there, then we get there. And a lot of people want that. But there's also the majority of society who don't want that. They would rather just talk and validate. But the problem is with that is that if you're always validating and blaming and justifying, then you never move out of those patterns. So I sort of have a really strong, hard line that I pull, that if you want to be in my community, then we're going for outcomes, we're bettering ourselves, we're growing, and I'm happy to support you in that. But at the same time, I'll tell people, like, if you want me to sit and listen to your problems and they're the same problems for the next 6 months, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
Go to someone else. But I because I study a lot of different science and a lot of different philosophy, I tend to use a lot of different examples to help people break through those things. Like an example is Epictetus, the famous philosopher, the Greek. I think he was Greek. No, he was a Roman philosopher, although he did live in Greece. He said that fear is ignorance. And it's just such a simple quote, right? Fear is ignorance. So the question is that when I'm scared, what don't I know?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we know something, it's not fear anymore. It's just there's a logical sequence, or there's a step, or we change something. So that's a part of it. Then there are other things, like when I studied ancient Chinese philosophy, which sort of got me rolling with my way of thinking now. Like, I'm not a positive thinking guy. I don't like the idea of positive thinking, but I also don't subscribe to negative thinking. I think that a lot of humans need a lot of pain in order to grow. So we can use pain to grow, we can use pleasure to grow, or we can use inspiration to grow. And inspiration is a balance between pain and pleasure. Because anytime that we're growing purposefully, it's normally there's a balance of pain and pleasure, like going to the gym, right? It's a challenge, but when you walk out of there, you feel better because you have purposefully challenged yourself. So I'm trying to move a lot of people's thinking at the moment away from things should be easy. We shouldn't have challenge. We shouldn't have adversity. I was working with someone today in some relationship coaching, which I try not. I'm not a relationship coach, but we have people in the community who have relationship issues. And they say things like, yeah, but my partner should support me. And I say, okay, let's stop the addiction to support in our society. Because the thing is that most people do a lot of stupid shit. And if you're doing stupid things, why should people support you? So the question then becomes, where's the borderline between when someone should challenge you to step up, challenge you to become better, put boundaries in place and hold you accountable to those boundaries, hold you to your own goals, versus when should they support you because you're getting overwhelmed because now life is kicking you in the ass a little bit and you just need someone there for you. And so I believe that the purpose of a relationship is to achieve optimum growth and to hold you accountable to your high standards, which my wife is my dream and my nightmare at the same time. She's my best friend and my worst enemy. Because when I'm getting my ass kicked by life, she's the first person who's like, hey, I know the business has been really tough this week. Sometimes I get attacked on social media by groups and stuff like that. She's the first person who's always there. But at the same time, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm eating pizza. I'm not putting in the work. And she'll just get to a point and she's like, hey, this is not cool. This is not acceptable. You're putting on weight. You're not working out. You've had a couple of days of doing this. Don't be doing this shit tomorrow. Right? Because she has a high standard for me. She doesn't want an overweight husband, which is fair enough. She doesn't want me to let myself down. She doesn't want me to go downhill mentally. So she will challenge me. And what normally happens is I start getting frustrated or I get angry or something like that. And I'm like, right, I'm going back to the gym. And then I'm off again. Now she just got the best out of me. Most couples don't learn how to thank their partner for that. She'll come up and she'll pick little bits and pieces on me. And then I start getting frustrated. I'm like, I know what you're doing. I'm dropping my standards. You're pushing me a little bit because the frustration and the anger is building a little bit. And now I'm going to take action. So I think that life is always trying to make us our authentic self. And when we slip, people or situations or circumstances come and hold us accountable to those standards and to being our authentic self. I'm a driven guy. I like achieving. I like getting the best out of myself. And sometimes I fall into a little hole like everybody else. She comes along and she's the first person who whoops my ass back into gear.
Well, life's a bit like a trampoline, isn't it? It's got its ups and its downs. And just like you said, I had a conversation with my team last week where we have this week in review thing, and we look at our highs and our lows of the week, and we celebrate and commiserate. And so I only give them so long to do those pits, right? So I'm like, they were complaining about the same thing. And I'm like, they were like, we have too many meetings, we're wasting too much time. And I'm like, but what are you doing about it? Like, what have you done to protect your time? What have you done to make sure that you have the time that you need? Were you just accepting it? Because if you do, then that's what you're going to get more of. What are you doing? And so the moment I flipped it back at them, you should have seen their faces. They looked at me like, how dare you? It's just like, nah, it all starts with you. And that's what this show's all about, Michael, is the change starts with us. If you want to whinge about something, I'll give you one go at it. I think it's Mel Robbins who says that. You get one complaint. I'll give you one complaint. You do it again, I want to see what you've done to change it.
Yep.
So
my wife said that last night, actually. We were going for a walk. She's not the personal development person I am who does all the study and the research and everything, but she just comes out with these one-liners that blow my mind. And so we're walking and she said, how's your day going? I was like, it's just, I was meaning to get more stuff done than what I'd done. And so I just had to regroup myself because I'd been working back to back and I knew I had to just get out of my office. And so we work at home together. She's got her office and I have my office. And so I said, let's go for a walk. And she said, are you in the gap or you in the game?
Ooh.
And I said, what do you mean? And she said, are you comparing yourself to where you think you should be, which is creating a gap, or are you playing the game? And I went, ooh, I'm in the gap. And she said, of course you are. She said, you got to get back in the game. You can only do what you can do right now. That's the game. Let's go. And she just pulled me back in the line. I was like, bang, that one simple thing, off I go again.
Damn, where did you find her?
I don't know. She's been on her own personal growth journey, especially in the last 12 months. She just comes out with these crazy one-liners that just blow my mind.
I think we all need someone in our lives like your wife, to be honest.
Yeah, well, she wasn't always like that, to be honest. She went through a stage where she just got in her own comfort zone. She's come from the corporate world where, you do things and you get paid for whether you achieve outcomes or not, you still get paid, all of that. And then she jumps into this business. And so for the first 10 years, it was really tough for her. And so we used to sort of clash a lot because I'm entrepreneurial and just go. And if we make it happen, we make it happen. But I'll live on baked beans and eggs if I need to. But at the same time, I also eat caviar when things go well. Whereas for her, she likes that stability. And so it's only probably been the last 12 months that she's sort of realized that she wasn't getting the things that she wanted in our business because she just wasn't committed to her own growth. And then so she started committing to her own growth, and her growth has been mind-blowing. Yep.
So Michael, tell us about your Mojo and the results you get for your clients, bearing in mind that these are growth mindset people that are very high up in their game.
Yep.
What kind of results are you helping them achieve?
really, I think the only result that's important is just being better within yourself. And that's the only thing that matters. Like, I mean, I was with a client the other day who he started with us 3 years ago. He actually did his apprenticeship with me. So he's a mechanic. Started doing power generation systems, where he gets employed to go out and put in generators, and now they're using solar and a whole bunch of other things to create power. But he started his company. He was doing about $1 million revenue per year, but was stressed out, frustrated. Hey, he had no idea how to run a business. Now he was just telling me about a $25 million job that they're doing at the moment. So his growth's been phenomenal, and that's one job. And he's got, we're talking every job he talks to me about is like anywhere between 2 and 30 million. Some of my clients have been rich listers, professional athletes. So, but it always comes back to the one thing, right? Like, if you study neuroscience, our eyes only see light. We don't actually see things. So our whole reality is an interpretation that happens within the mind. So if you have blocks, it's not that there's an external block, it's an internal block, because our perception of our reality is the thing that tends to create those blocks. So then the question is, what is it that we need to learn so that we can grow? Because the more we grow, the more likely we are to achieve the things that we want. Now, a lot of my philosophy and a lot of the way that I coach people comes back to Chinese philosophy and the yin and the yang. There's always a benefit and there's always a drawback. You can't have a gain without a loss. So I get people come to me and they say, oh, you're so lucky because you've got this multi-million-dollar business and you get to do what you want when you want. And I'm sitting there thinking, sounds easy. Have you ever had one? Well, no. Do you have kids? Yeah. Well, you're lucky because you've got kids. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And they look at me like I'm a freak. And they go, so you've never had kids? And I go, exactly. So I know that having kids is extremely tough because if you want your kids to be at their best, you have to be at your best as a parent. And you're always slipping and you've got gaps, and everything in parenting is the same as leadership. If you over challenge a child, you break them or you crush them. If you over support a child, they become weak and codependent. Staff are exactly the same. So like you did, you challenge your staff, that the people that are growth driven can handle that. And they go, I'm frustrated at the moment, but 2 or 3 days later, when they sit there and they think about it, they go, actually, that was a lesson that I needed. So my staff, I challenge them all the time, but they love it. Like in the moment, they get those triggers and it brings up stuff for them. But afterwards, they're like, wow, thank you so much. I needed to see that. But I also have this caring side. Like when my staff go through challenges, I'm like, hey, I know if you need to take a day off, take a day off. Or if there's something going on, like you just look after yourself. My number one priority is their growth. So when it comes to the results of my clients, whether it's financial, whether it's for their own performance in sport, whether it's being better parents, better in relationships, the answer to the question is always the same. And that is that you need to grow to the level that you want to be at. I spoke about this today on my social media. I do a lot of stuff on my Instagram page. And I spoke about, the analogy is this. I could give you $1 million right now, or you can work for the next 3 years and you earn $1 million in 3 years' time. But after you earn that $1 million, you have the knowledge where the year after you can earn another $1 million, and then another $1 million the year after that, and $1 million the year after that for the rest of your life. Which one would you take? Would you take the $1 million now, or would you take the $1 million in 3 years? Now, the smart answer is the $1 million in 3 years. Why? Because you've got to learn all the lessons that you need to learn to become the person who has earned the right to have that money. So most people, they want to win lotto because lotto means I get the cash. But the problem is most people lose the lotto, because if you take a $20,000 a year mindset and you give it $1 million, it gets rid of it back to a $20,000 mindset.
Yes.
If you take someone who can't drive a car and they're used to driving at 60 kilometers an hour and you put them on a racetrack, they crash the car. Because we always drop down to the standards of which we can handle in our own life. Now, most people hate hearing that. But the truth is, if you don't have the results that you want, it's because you haven't earned it yet through the knowledge that you haven't gained. So now you need to learn the knowledge to get to where you need to get to. And if you can think like that, our business is growing quite heavily at the moment again. But what I'm doing is I'm just gaining knowledge. So, this year alone already, we're in March. I think I've already spent probably about $30,000 or $40,000 on mentors and coaches already this year because of where I need to get to. And I'm like, give me the knowledge because I know that I need to be better in order to get to that level. The future Michael has already got that outcome. I just need to build that future Michael now.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because a while back I had a guest on who previously worked at the Franklin Covey Institute, which you've probably heard about. And they, when I asked them, they're a master coach. When I asked them, what's the benefit of having a coach? Like people think, oh, yeah, everybody's a coach nowadays. What do you need one of them for, But
True.
they likened it to an athlete where could you expect someone to get a gold medal in the Olympics if they don't have a coach? Do you think that's going to work? It's the same if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in business, if you want to achieve big things in life, you need guidance from someone who can help you be in that level of mastery. Not just achieving, but it's a level of mastery. And you can't do that on your own. And it's okay to ask for help because none of us can get there on our own because it's the stuff we don't know. It's the knowledge we need to gain.
I agree with that. I've hired one of my mentors at the moment and he wants to buy into our business. He just sold a company for $1.12 billion and is the chief operating officer. And he's only young as well. I'm 40, he's 37.
Wow.
And he was over at our house probably about a month to 2 months ago. And I was stuck on the whiteboard with this problem. And this is why people need coaches or mentors or people around you. He said, I was stuck on this problem for 2 weeks and I'd mapped out everything. I'm trying to build a process and a system for the company. And anyway, he walks in and I said, oh, look, I'm stuck with this thing. And he goes, oh, okay. Anyway, he gets on the whiteboard, he starts crafting stuff out and he's looking. And anyway, he goes, there you go, there's your answer. And I said, bloody hell, how did you do that? And he goes, you're too close. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're too close. Like you're emotionally invested in the outcome. You just can't see it for what it is. And he said, I do the same thing with my team. He said, I can sit there for weeks stressing about a problem. And he said, I've learned, I just call the team and I say, here's a problem. I need help crafting this. And some of them, because they're not emotionally attached to the outcome, they bring up the answer straight away. And so I use that terminology now that part of the reason why coaches help you to achieve faster results, well, good coaches do, is that normally you're emotionally invested in outcomes and sometimes you're just too close. And everybody knows that you can solve someone else's problems easier than you can solve your own. So you can spend 6 months and figure it out for yourself. You'll probably get there. Or you can have someone else walk in and within 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you're on to the next problem. So it depends. If you want to do everything yourself in life, that's cool, but you're going to move at a certain speed. Someone like me who wants to go at a super fast speed and achieve great results and get big things because I know that life is a very limited time and I don't have time to mess around. I want to get in, I want to get out, I want to get the results done, and I need people around me to see the things that I can't see.
Yeah.
And that's what good coaches do. The other thing that good coaches do is they're essentially bumper plates. I had a client yesterday. She's been in our community for about 10 years, but I hadn't seen her for 5 years and she just popped up on Instagram. I put up a post and she wrote, all right, Mojo, let's go. And then so I just sent her a message. She signed up straight up for coaching. It was like 15 grand for 3 months or something for her, like with the package that she wanted. And by the way, all my packages aren't worth that much, but that's what she needed. But when we started working, I said to her, look, if we're going to work together one-on-one, please understand that you're not paying for my time, you're paying for the outcome. And so some sessions might be 15 minutes. Some sessions we might have booked for an hour, but they might go for 2 hours. I don't know. We just need to dig in and get the problem solved and keep you moving as fast as we can. And what I know is that high level people value their time more than they value money. Lower level people normally value money, but they don't value their time. So when I tell people that someone pays me for an hour, but I only work with them for 15 minutes, it blows their mind. For a high level person, they're like, yeah, but I can go make more money now for 45 minutes because you got it done in 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. And I can so relate to that too. I know I ended up in a coaching session once, one I didn't feel I needed. You know, some of us feel like we got all the answers. We know what to do. I don't need this. So I rocked up. I was kind of voluntold I had to be there. And I rocked up and I'm like, oh, all right, I will go through your process and let's see what happens. Sure enough, I got a breakthrough within 15 minutes. She had an hour booked. I was gone in 15.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that had been annoying the shit out of me for longer than it should have. And I went, why didn't I see that? You know, like we're coaches ourselves. Why do we not see our own shit sometimes? But it's that other perspective, again, of seeing other people's problems from another perspective that you're not so close to. That is the most valuable thing a coach can give you.
Yep. By the way, we should frame good coach.
Good. Yes, there's so many.
Yeah, I think in all industries, because I get asked about this a lot. Like, I have medical doctors come to some of our events because of the information that I present. We have psychologists. We have fully trained, medical professionals and really intelligent people coming to some of my work, engineers and that, just because of how I present some of the theories of how our brain works. And why I believe that mental and emotional balance is more important than positive thinking or negative thinking. Where was I going with that conversation? I always get asked, like, what do you think of doctors? What do you think of psychologists? Should I go get a therapist? And I'm like, look, you're asking me about a broad scale of people. I believe that there are 10 to 20% of people in every industry who love what they do and they're there and they study and they research. I just hired a person to come in who, again, he's the chief operating, not the chief operating officer. He's the chief financial controller for that same company that sold for billions. My mentor said to me, he said, you need to get this guy in because he'll help build out all your data for your finances. And he said, this guy just loves financial reporting and spreadsheets. And he said on the weekend, he'll literally sit there and build out spreadsheets and stuff like that just because that's what he loves to do. And I'm like, that guy's a psychopath because I couldn't think of anything worse.
Same.
But that's what he loves.
Yep.
That's the 10% in that industry. Every industry has the 10 to 20%. 10 to 20% of doctors are phenomenal. The other 80% are probably just coming to work because it's a job and that's what they did. And they went through university and now they got to pay the bills and put their kids through school and they're just sort of stuck there doing their thing. And then there's the other ones who just hate the whole industry and they don't want to be there. And so I think that as a consumer, we have to know what we want and we have to hold people to our standards. If I go to a bad doctor, I just go to a different doctor. Whereas a lot of people go to a bad doctor, but they can't define the difference between a bad and a good one because they don't have their own standards. And so you just end up with what you get. The coaching industry is the same.
Exactly.
I meet great coaches out there and great coaches in different areas, relationships, executive coaches, and so on. They're out there. There's 10% of them in every industry. Then the rest of the 80 to 90%, I talk to and I'm like, holy crap, I hope no one pays you. But, they get paid. Not well, but they get paid.
I know some that, I've stumbled across. I'm like, oh my Lord, how are you doing this as a career? Yes.
Yep.
Now, Michael, I reckon I could talk to you all day, and I think there's so much more for us to unpack here, but, I feel like we've just touched the surface. If people want to find out more about you and get in touch with you and learn more about, your coaching and your rad car, where can they go?
Well, first of all, it sounds like we need to do volume 2 in the future.
Yes.
So they can go to michaelmojo.com, which is our website. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there. You can read, download, watch. So they can go check that out. I have a podcast as well, which is called The Underestimated Entrepreneur. It's just my daily brain dump of ideas and thoughts and stuff like that. I just do it so that people can sort of get into the right framework or the right mindset when they're driving to work. Some days it depends on on how I'm feeling as well. So some days the podcast is fantastic, and the other days it's not having a good day today. But I want people to see that. I want people to experience that it's
that's authentic.
Yeah, they can listen into that as well. I do a lot of stuff on mindset and business and wealth creation and relationships and communication on there. And then you can find me on all social media platforms, although I spend a lot of my time on Instagram. And so everyone who follows me, it's normally me who hits that follow button back and has a chat with people. I actually chat with everybody who follows me in my inbox as well. And, you know, I just want to build a community of high performing people that want to be better in life and want to achieve more and support each other.
It sounds like where I want to be. I'll connect with you there.
Done.
Now, what's the change you'd like to see in the world, and how can we bring it to life?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you. I came up with it myself.
There's part of me that says I'm not sure that the world has to change, because I think that everything balances itself back out. And so you have people like me out there that are trying to push human growth and human evolution in their self-growth. And there are other people out there who think that it's ridiculous and stupid to do that. I think there are people out there who are pushing technology, and then there are other people out there who think technology is going to destroy the world. So I believe in the yin yang philosophy that everything's always the way it's supposed to be, and that evolution moves at the speed it needs to. If we move too fast, we tend to destroy stuff. And if we move too slow, we tend to get stuck. So, but look, if I could change one thing for everybody out there, I think it would be that when you look in the mirror in the morning, you need to have the self-belief that you're here for a reason, you're here for a short period of time, and that you need to be purposeful and intentional with the way you operate today. And do that every day. And believe that you're here because you fill a very specific void in the world. And the world needs you to be here, and it needs you to do shit. But just get out there and do it. Don't believe you're not good enough, because when you do that, you're in the gap, right? It's what Jess spoke about. You're in the gap. You're comparing yourself to others. The thing is, you're running in their lane. I know I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to be anybody else, but I am good enough to be me. And I have all parts. Some days I look at myself and I'm like, man, I'm an absolute moron. And then other days I'm like, geez, I'm a genius. So we have to understand that, based on the yin yang philosophy, that everything's always there. You can't have a positive without a negative. They're both there. I have negative thinking and positive thinking a million times throughout the day. There's the angel and the devil. Every childhood cartoon has the angel and the devil in some way, and we all have it. I don't think that it's healthy thinking that everything should be positive all the time or everything should be happy all the time, because we can become lazy and complacent. But I also don't think it's beneficial to have the devil all the time and think that you're the worst person and that nothing ever works and that everything's horrible. I think, we just need to ride the journey and be better every day. And, I spoke to someone about this today, and I said they were going through a hard time in their life, and they were worried about getting judged and criticized because of the decision that they're about to make. And I said, look, let's think about it from this perspective. First of all, you're in Australia, and most people around the world have no idea where that country even is. Now, there's 27 million Australians. So if no one knows where Australia is, or half of the world don't know where Australia is, they're not worried about what you're doing. And then I said, look, and then if you start thinking, if we want to branch out, we're on Earth, and Earth is not even a little speck in the whole, galaxy. So it doesn't matter whatever you're going through. It doesn't matter. It matters to you, but it doesn't matter as much as what you think it does. And then finally, I asked this question. The Queen died a year ago or 2 years ago. And I said, did you wake up this morning and think about her? She said, well, no, I didn't. I said, when was the last time? And she said, 12 months ago. And I said, okay, she was one of the most famous people on the planet who ruled countries and was one of the most powerful, influential people in our lifetime. And you didn't even think about her. What do you think the chances are that most people that you're worried about, they're thinking about you, are even thinking about you? The truth is, no one's thinking about you, so no one cares. Just get on and make the decisions you've got to make, do what you've got to do, because people think of you for a split second and then it's gone. And to be honest, in 100 years, no one's even going to remember you here. So you're over-exaggerating what's going on. Just live your life, do what you got to do, be a better person and keep growing, and you'll be fine.
Amen. And I always tell people, what other people think of me is their problem, not mine. That's their business. I don't really care. And they probably don't give a shit about, they're probably not thinking about me anyway. So who gives a shit, right? We get so tied up in what other people think, and it does not matter, because they're not thinking about you at all. They're thinking about themselves. That's what they're doing.
I agree with that.
Oh, Michael, I have loved this. I think we've got to do some more of it. Thank you so much for being a part of the Ethical Evolution.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for everyone who's listening as well. I really appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram. If you're interested in diving deeper into the ethical evolution with me, I've created a membership program that allows me to bring you more in-depth exclusive content without relying on paid ads. My goal is to deliver members way more value than the cost of the subscription. Benefits include Ask Me Anything episodes. I've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world, so imagine what you could ask. Access exclusive bonus content only for members that focuses on the downloads I get through my conversations that include actionable tips. Support Ethical Change Agency and the Ethical Evolution podcast on its mission to amplify change makers who make the world a better place. Access to global connections who can help you make greater impact in the world. Meditate with me and discounted spiritual coaching or podcast consulting with me at 15% off. That value alone pays for your membership. For only $7 a month or $70 a year, you can access all these benefits of an Ethical Evolution Emergence membership. If you want to learn more and access these benefits, head on over to ethicalchangeagency.com.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Peter.
We're the founders of Electrocast Media, bringing you great podcasts like Nightmare Road Stories, Tech Talk Revolution, and Bodacious Minds.
Electrocast networks include Ruby for female empowerment, the Best Business Network, and GPN for geopolitics. We built this company to create community and amplify diverse voices, and we really appreciate your support.
So keep listening to Electrocast podcasts and hear the culture.
Electrocast. Hi, I'm Lessa Gadet, host of her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I speak with women from all over the world about what they do and how they are passionately pursuing their dreams and creating meaningful impacts on their communities. So come join us and learn about all there is to learn about these extraordinary women. Electrocast.